Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Let the world outside fade away. You are safe. You are calm. And tonight, you will travel through the timeless river of dreams, guided gently by the whispers of Lethe, the River of Forgetfulness. In the ancient heart of Greek mythology, among rivers that flowed through the underworld, one stood apart in silence. It was Lethe, the river whose waters carried the power of forgetting, not merely an ordinary stream, but a current of divine mystery, a stream where memories dissolved into mist, and where souls found release from the burdens of the past. Lethe flowed quietly. Its waters were calm, but beneath that calm rested a truth more powerful than thunder. To drink from Lethe was to surrender memory, to release all ties of former life, to let go of love and pain, of triumph and regret, and to become new once again. Blank. Empty. A clean slate awaiting the touch of destiny. For the souls wandering into Hades' realm, Lethe was not just a river, it was a threshold, a boundary between what had been lived and what could yet be. Those who drank were prepared for rebirth, for life anew beyond the veil. Their memories erased, their hearts unburdened, their spirits freed. Imagine walking beside that silent river, the moon casting silver light upon dark waters, the current whispering lullabies of forgetting, the night air cool upon your skin, and in the distance, the sound of souls surrendering their stories, one by one, fading into nothingness. The silence of Lethe was not cruel. It was merciful. It offered a gift, the freedom from chains that bind the heart, the freedom to let go, the freedom to begin again. It was not death, but transformation, a stillness that cradled weary souls and prepared them for another dawn. The philosophers of Greece often spoke of Lethe. Plato wrote of it in the Myth of Air, describing how souls must drink before reincarnation, and how memory must be erased, so that new life could be lived without the burden of old pains. To forget was to be free. To forget was to have the chance to live fully again. But Lethe was also a warning for what is identity, if not the sum of our memories? What are we without our past? Without the joys and sorrows that shape us? Without the lessons carried from trial and triumph? The river promised release, yet it also asked a price: the surrender of the self. Still, as souls leaned down to drink, the water was gentle, cold but soothing, flowing through them like night itself. And as memory dissolved, the soul felt lighter, freer, floating in peace, ready to be carried forward by destiny. Lethe's flow was eternal. No storm disturbed its surface. No sound broke its silence. It was as if time itself bent down in reverence to guard the stillness of forgetting. And in that stillness, the weary found comfort. The restless found sleep. The broken found peace. So tonight, as you listen to the flow of this silent river, allow yourself to let go. Release the burdens of the day, the worries, the fears, the weight you no longer need to carry. Let them dissolve into the current, like memories fading into mist, and let the silence of Lethe carry you into rest. In the beginning of time, before the rise of Olympus, before the shaping of mortal lands, there was only chaos, a vast emptiness stretching into eternity, silent, timeless. And within this darkness, forces of nature began to stir. Unseen currents whispered through the void, and among them, the first rivers of the cosmos took form. These were not rivers of water as mortals know, but rivers of essence, born from the eternal fabric of existence. They flowed not across lands, but through realms both seen and unseen. Some carried fire, others carried dreams, and one river carried the power of forgetting. This was Lethe, the enchanted current of forgetfulness. Unlike the turbulent streams of war and wrath, Lethe was quiet even in its birth. Its waters did not roar. They whispered. They did not rage. They soothed. It was said that Lethe sprang from the tears of Nyx herself, the primordial goddess of night. For when she gazed upon the weight of creation, she wept for the sorrow that would burden every soul, and her tears flowed into the void, becoming the silent current that would one day cradle all who suffered. Others claimed Lethe was born from chaos directly, that as the universe expanded, chaos sought balance. Memory had been born with Mnemosyne, the goddess of remembrance, and so her counterpart had to exist. For what is memory without forgetfulness? What is light without shadow? What is life without rest? Thus, Lethe emerged, not as an enemy of memory, but as its twin, together shaping the destiny of gods and mortals alike. From its first flowing, Lethe did not carve mountains or valleys. It carved hearts and minds. It shaped the spirit rather than the land. Its waters shimmered not with sunlight, but with the glow of release. When one touched Lethe, memories softened, burden faded, the weight of grief dissolved into mist, and all that remained was silence. The enchanted nature of Lethe gave it power beyond comprehension. Where other rivers nourished life, Lethe nourished peace. Where other streams demanded respect, Lethe demanded surrender. It was not to be fought against. It was to be trusted. For only those who let go could feel its true embrace. Ancient poets whispered that Lethe did not only exist in the underworld, it flowed secretly through the dreams of mortals. When a person awoke forgetting fragments of the night, they had touched Lethe in their sleep. When pain dulled with the passing years, it was Lethe gently washing it away. When sorrow seemed unbearable, but eventually softened, that too was Lethe's hidden mercy. The enchanted origin of this river was not bound to a single myth. It was a thread woven into many. Some said the gods themselves drank from it to ease their endless lives, for even immortals could tire of memory, for even gods could long for release. Others believed it was placed by fate as a safeguard against the chaos of eternal recollection, a reminder that nothing should last forever, not even memory. Lethe's flow was invisible yet present in every age. When wars ended, it cleansed the battlefield. When kingdoms fell, it carried away the weight of sorrow. When mortals wept for lost love, Its current ran through their tears. And when philosophers sat under the night sky, wondering about life, death, and rebirth, they felt Lethe's breath upon their thoughts. The enchanted river was more than a myth. It was a symbol of balance. Without it, memory would crush the soul. With it, the soul could rise again. Without it, the weight of eternity would break even the gods. With it, there was renewal. Without it, sorrow would never end. With it, healing could begin. Thus, Lethe's enchanted origin became one of the most sacred mysteries, a quiet gift to both mortals and immortals. Even in silence, Lethe spoke, not with words, but with release. Not with thunder, but with peace. It whispered to every soul that forgetting is not weakness, but strength. That to let go is not to lose, but to prepare for something new. That within the quiet waters of forgetting, there lies the seed of eternal renewal. The river of Lethe was unlike any river mortals could imagine. Its waters did not sparkle under sunlight, for no sunlight could ever touch them. They glowed from within, as though carrying the essence of forgotten dreams. A pale silver radiance shimmered upon its surface, calm, silent, and eternal. Those who gazed upon the river for the first time felt their hearts grow still. It was not fear that silenced them, but awe. The kind of awe that humbled kings and softened warriors. Every ripple on the surface seemed alive. Every wave carried whispers from lives long gone. It was as if the river held the secret songs of every forgotten soul, flowing endlessly between worlds. The mystical waters of Lethe were said to possess a paradox. They erased memory, yet they also healed. They took away the weight of pain, yet in doing so, they gave the gift of peace. A soul who touched its current would lose, and yet they would gain. They would forget grief, but they would discover freedom. They would forget sorrow, but they would awaken to serenity. Some poets claimed the river's surface was a mirror, not of the body, but of the soul. When one looked deep into its silver glow, they did not see their face. They saw fragments of who they once were, images of forgotten laughter, echoes of lost tears, visions of love both gentle and broken, and slowly, like smoke fading into the sky, the images dissolved, leaving the soul lighter, untethered, free. The mystical waters were guarded fiercely, not by walls, nor by blades, but by silence itself. For silence was Lethe's true sentinel. Only those who came with surrender could hear its call. Only those weary of burden could find its flow. And only those willing to let go could taste its gift. Legends tell of wanderers who sought the river. They came with heavy hearts, with memories too cruel to bear. Some had lost their families. Others carried guilt from wars they could not undo. Many walked through shadows for years before finding its shores. And when at last they knelt before its waters, they felt a calmness beyond mortal comprehension. They touched the stream, and in that moment, the past slipped away. Their eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of release. For they were no longer bound to what once was. They were free to simply be. But Lethe's waters were not without mystery. For some believed they did not merely erase. They transformed. Memories, though lost, were not destroyed. They became part of the river itself. Every forgotten grief joined its current. Every abandoned sorrow flowed into its depths, until the river became a living library of all that had ever been. A hidden archive of pain, transmuted into serenity, silent, but eternal. The mystical waters also held great danger. For to drink too deeply was to lose not only sorrow, but self. The river did not discriminate. It washed away joy as easily as it washed away grief. It could cleanse, but it could also empty. And those who surrendered too fully became shadows, drifting beings with no past, no name, no anchor to hold them in the realm of the living. Thus, the waters were both gift and warning, both mercy and mystery. Even the gods themselves treated Lethe with reverence. Some feared it. Others sought it. But all respected its silence. For in those silver currents lay a truth none could deny. That forgetting was as sacred as remembering. That peace was as vital as struggle. And that within every end there flowed the seed of a new beginning. Thus, the mystical waters of Lethe endured through eternity, untouched by time, unmoved by kingdoms rising and falling, a river not of the earth, but of the soul, where sorrow dissolved, where memories became mist, and where all who longed for release found silence waiting in silver embrace. Beyond the shimmering waters of Lethe, there was said to be a passage unknown to mortals, a threshold veiled in silver mist, invisible to the eyes that sought it with haste, but revealed to those who carried patience in their hearts. This was the hidden gate of Lethe, a doorway not built of stone nor carved by hand, but formed by silence, memory, and surrender. The hidden gate was never in one place. It shifted with the flow of the river, appearing to some at dusk, to others at dawn, sometimes in a valley where shadows deepened, sometimes on a hill where the winds whispered. It could not be mapped. It could only be found when one was ready to let go. The guardians of this gate were not warriors, nor were they beasts of power. They were echoes, faint, drifting shapes of those who had already passed beyond. Souls who once sought release, and in finding it, became part of the silence itself. They guided without speaking. They showed the way not with light, but with stillness. And only those who understood the stillness could follow. Legends whispered that the hidden gate was not an end, but a threshold to another truth. Beyond it lay realms untouched by memory. Realms where the burden of identity melted away, where the soul did not remember, nor did it forget. It simply was. A state beyond thought, beyond grief, beyond even the weight of joy. It was not oblivion, but pure existence. Some mortals who reached the river sought the gate desperately. They wanted not only to forget, but to disappear entirely into something greater. Few succeeded, for the gate could not be forced open. It revealed itself only when surrender was complete, when desire was emptied, and when the self no longer clung to what was lost. The hidden gate was described as a veil of silver light, soft yet impenetrable, shimmering like the surface of still water. Those who touched it with restless hearts found nothing but mist. Those who approached it with surrender felt warmth, as if 1,000 forgotten songs embraced them at once. Then the veil would part, and the traveler would step through, leaving behind all that once was. The journey beyond the gate was never spoken of, for none who entered returned to tell of it. Their silence became part of the river. Their memory became part of the current, and their essence joined the eternal hush that guarded the threshold. Thus, the hidden gate remained both a mystery and a promise. Even the gods spoke of Lethe's hidden gate with reverence. Some feared it as a place of unmaking. Others honored it as the highest form of peace. Yet all agreed it was sacred, for it was the river's deepest secret, the final doorway for the weary, the place where the burden of all things ended, and the soul was welcomed into silence eternal. The river of Lethe was not silent as many believed. It carried a voice softer than breath, quieter than the rustle of falling leaves, a voice that lingered not in the ear, but deep within the soul. This was the whisper of forgetfulness. The whisper was not heard at first. To those who came to Lethe, it seemed only the gentle lapping of water, the sound of current against the stones. But if one lingered, if one let go of their haste and closed their eyes, the water began to speak, not in words of men or gods, but in tones that slipped through memory like threads of fading dream. The whisper was patient. It did not rush. It did not command. It simply waited. Slowly, it touched the edges of thought, eroding the sharpness of pain, softening the weight of grief, dimming the images of faces once loved. And with every moment, the past grew lighter, until the traveler no longer carried it. The whisper was neither cruel nor kind. It did not choose what to erase. It flowed through all memories the same. The joyous laughter, the bitter tears, the triumphs and the losses, all were equal in its song. All dissolved into stillness. All surrendered to the same quiet oblivion. Some who came to Lethe feared the whisper. They clung to their past as though it defined them. They trembled at the thought of being unmoored. For what are we without our memories? Without the stories we tell ourselves, who are we? The whisper offered no answer. It simply kept singing, patient, eternal, until resistance itself grew tired, and even the fiercest grasp loosened in time. There were others who sought the whisper willingly, burdened by grief too heavy to carry, haunted by mistakes too sharp to endure. They stepped into the waters eagerly, letting the whisper wash over them like rain. And as the sound wove through their minds, they felt the chains of sorrow dissolve. They felt the weight of guilt slip away, until they stood empty, cleansed of all they once remembered. The whisper had power not only over mortals, but over spirits and shades alike. Those who wandered the underworld in restlessness, those who could not forget their lives. Even they, when drawn to Lethe, heard the song. And little by little, their unrest stilled. Their longing faded, and they too surrendered to peace. Yet the whisper was never forceful. It was not a storm that shattered. It was a breeze that eroded, a tide that smoothed jagged stone, a lullaby sung by eternity itself. And its strength lay not in power, but in endless patience. The poets once said that Lethe's whisper was like the fading of stars at dawn. It was not sudden, but gradual. A dimming so slow one scarcely noticed until the sky was empty. And so it was with memory. One moment a name lingered on the lips. And then, without knowing when, it was gone, leaving only silence where once there was weight. The whisper of forgetfulness was not an ending. It was a gift of release, a gift of rest, a gift that allowed the soul to drift without burden, to step forward unchained, to enter the next realm unmarked by sorrow. Lethe was not only a river of forgetting, it was a river of silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence that heals, a silence that spoke more than words ever could. The waters did not roar like other rivers. They did not crash against rocks with violence. They moved softly, almost weightless, as if afraid to disturb the souls that came to them. This was the silence of Lethe, a silence that wrapped itself around the weary traveler and whispered, "Rest." For those who approached Lethe burdened by sorrow, the silence was the first gift. It quieted the voices of regret. It stilled the echoes of pain. It softened the clamor of guilt and loss. And for the first time in many lives, the weary found stillness within themselves. The silence of Lethe was not empty. It was full of calm, full of peace, full of gentle embrace. It carried within it the memory of eternity, a memory that was deeper than grief, older than sorrow, stronger than despair. As the silence sank into the hearts of mortals and shades, they felt their pain loosen, like knots untied, like heavy chains falling from tired shoulders. Every sigh dissolved into the current. Every wound of the soul softened, until only quiet remained. And in that quiet, healing began. The poets wrote of Lethe as a mother's touch, not one of words, but of presence, the kind that soothes without explanation, the kind that calms without reason. Such was the silence of Lethe. It did not argue with grief. It did not deny pain. It simply held them until they faded. This silence was not the end of life's meaning. It was the restoration of the soul, a gentle cleansing of wounds unseen, a renewal that allowed the traveler to move forward, not broken, but whole again, not chained by sorrow, but freed by peace. The silence of Lethe was eternal, unmoved by time, unbroken by memory. It stretched across the river like a veil, covering every soul who entered its flow. And within that silence, every spirit found rest, every heart found calm, every wound found healing. The silence did not ask for worship. It did not demand reverence. It simply was. And in its being, it healed. Lethe's silence was a reminder that sometimes the deepest truths need no words, that sometimes the purest healing is found not in sound, but in stillness. Thus, Lethe's silence became sacred to gods and mortals alike, for it was more than forgetting. It was the balm of eternity, the hush that mended broken hearts, the quiet that set souls free. And in its silence, Lethe gave the greatest gift of all: peace. The river Lethe was not only a symbol, it was a presence within the myths of the ancients, a current flowing quietly beneath their stories, shaping destinies, guiding souls, and whispering to both gods and mortals alike. In the heart of Hades, Lethe was more than water. It was an oath, a boundary, a sacred threshold that could not be ignored. The souls who entered the underworld were not complete until they drank of Lethe. For only then could they pass fully into the realm of shadows. Only then could they be freed of the burdens of mortal life. The poets of Greece spoke often of this river. Hesiod hinted at its silence. Virgil echoed its flow in Roman song. Plato spoke of its necessity, and Pindar wrote of the souls who bathed in its calm. Each voice carried the same truth, that forgetting was not destruction, but transformation. In some myths, the gods themselves touched Lethe, for even immortals were not untouched by sorrow. Even they longed to quiet the storms of memory. It was said that Hera, in her moments of grief, turned to Lethe's silence. That Hermes, the guide of souls, led mortals with reverence to its banks, and that even Hades himself guarded it with care, for in its flow lay the key to peace. Orpheus sang of Lethe as he wandered the dark halls of the underworld. He knew its hush. He touched its calm. And though he returned to the world of the living, the memory of its silence never left him. He spoke of it not as a curse, but as a gift, a river that lifted burdens too heavy for mortals to bear. In the myths of reincarnation, Lethe stood at the threshold of return. The souls who longed to live again were asked to drink deeply of its waters, to forget their past lives, to be reborn without the weight of memory, without chains, without sorrow. It was said that only those who resisted Lethe returned with echoes of past lives still within them. The ancients feared and revered this river equally, for in its waters there was loss, and yet there was freedom. To drink from Lethe was to surrender, to give up what had been, in order to step into what was to come. This was not an easy gift, but it was a necessary one. Thus, Lethe wove itself into the great myths of Greece, not loudly, not with thunder or fire, but with silence, with calm, with the whisper of peace beneath sorrow. Every myth that touched upon Lethe carried the same echo, that forgetting is not weakness, but the strength to begin anew. The myth of Lethe was not only about death, it was about life. It was about healing. It was about release. To the ancients, it was not merely a story. It was a truth hidden in water. A reminder that silence and forgetting are as sacred as memory itself. Forgetfulness is not emptiness. It is not the erasure of the self. It is the soft release of burdens too heavy to carry, the gentle loosening of chains that bind the heart, the quiet surrender of sorrow into silence. The ancients knew this truth. They saw in Lethe a river of freedom, a current that washed away grief, that untied the knots of memory, and offered rest to weary souls. Forgetting was not weakness. It was healing. It was the space where peace could grow. Every drop of Lethe symbolized release. The release of pain. The release of guilt. The release of longing that could not be fulfilled. To drink from Lethe was to accept peace. To step into the stillness of a mind unburdened. To walk into silence without fear. The poets wrote of this with reverence. They understood that memory, though sacred, could become a weight too great, that the soul, like the body, must rest, and that forgetting was a rest for the spirit. A pause in the endless flow of time. In the symbolism of Lethe, forgetting was not an ending. It was a beginning. It was the opening of a door unseen. A passage into quiet renewal. A chance to live or to rest without the ache of the past. The soul that drank from Lethe did not lose itself. It became whole again. Lethe's forgetfulness was the silence after grief, the stillness after storms, the calm after endless struggle. It was not destruction. It was restoration, a return to the essence untouched by sorrow. Thus, Lethe stood as a symbol, not of weakness, but of mercy, not of emptiness, but of fullness regained, not of death, but of release into peace. Forgetfulness was not feared. It was revered. For in its flow lay the gift of freedom. The river flows without end. Its current is timeless. Its waters neither rush nor falter. They move with patience, with silence, with the rhythm of eternity itself. The eternal flow of Lethe is not bound by seasons. It does not know winter or summer. It does not know drought or flood. Its movement is steady, its surface calm, its depths immeasurable. The soul that comes to Lethe enters not just water, but a current that has no beginning and no end. To touch the river is to feel time dissolve. To hear it is to listen to silence woven into sound. The ripples whisper of forgotten ages, of lives once lived, of voices once spoken, now softened into quiet echoes. The river carries them, not to destroy them, but to fold them gently into its eternal embrace. The ancients spoke of this flow with awe. They said it was the breath of the underworld, the pulse of eternity, a sacred movement that never ceased. A reminder that even in forgetting, there is continuity. Even in silence, there is song. The eternal flow does not ask for haste. It does not demand surrender. It simply waits, patient as the stars, steady as the turning of the earth. It welcomes every soul when the time is right. It gathers pain and releases it. It gathers grief and transforms it. It gathers memory and eases it into stillness. The flow is both gentle and vast. It holds the strength to soothe the weary, and the vastness to carry endless sorrow. No burden is too great for its waters, no grief too deep, no cry too sharp. The river hears them all and folds them into its quiet rhythm. Imagine standing at its banks, watching the surface glisten with pale light, feeling the breeze that carries no weight, only calm, only release. You place your hand in the flow, and the water greets you as if it has always known you. It takes nothing harshly. It simply eases the weight from your soul. It holds it and lets it drift away until you too feel weightless. The eternal flow of Lethe is not escape. It is return. A return to silence. A return to balance. A return to the essence beneath memory. The current does not strip away life. It unveils it. It shows the soul what it is without sorrow. what it is without heaviness, what it is in its most peaceful form. The poets dreamed of its eternal journey. They imagined the river circling endlessly, not confined to the underworld, but flowing beyond into unseen realms, carrying fragments of forgotten worlds, drifting through the fabric of existence itself, each drop a keeper of silence, each wave a guardian of rest. And though no mortal could follow its path, all souls would one day find it, and in its eternal embrace, they would find peace. The river flows without end. It has always flowed. It will always flow. Its waters remain pure, untouched by time. Its current remains steady, unbroken by change. And the soul that surrenders to its eternal flow. The waters of Lethe do not only erase, they also renew. In their silence, something awakens, a seed of rebirth, a thread of connection that binds all souls together. To drink from Lethe is to forget sorrow, but it is also to remember essence. When the weight of the past is lifted, the soul does not fall into emptiness. It rises into lightness. It discovers itself again, not as a shadow of what was, but as a new beginning. The ancients whispered that rebirth flows within its stream, that Lethe's gift was not just forgetting, but cleansing, washing away what no longer serves, leaving space for renewal, for clarity, for stillness that blooms into new life. The river does not separate one soul from another. It weaves them together, like threads carried within the same current. Each drop flows alongside countless others. Each soul, though individual, becomes part of the whole. Connection is found not in memory, but in presence. In the eternal, now that Lethe preserves. Rebirth is not loud. It is quiet. It does not arrive with thunder or flame. It arrives like dawn, soft unfolding, a light that does not blind, but gently reveals. The soul, renewed, learns to breathe again, learns to see again, learns to exist without burden. Connection is the hidden truth of the river. Though memories fade, the essence remains. The essence that every soul shares. The stillness that binds them. The silence that unites them. No soul is lost within Lethe. Each one becomes part of the great flow. each one a ripple in eternity. Those who spoke of Lethe as only forgetfulness did not see the deeper gift. They saw only what was lost, not what was found. They saw only silence, not the rebirth hidden within it, not the connection that grows stronger with every surrender. The river whispers gently of this secret, that every end is a beginning, that every release is a return, that every soul in letting go finds its true belonging. Not apart from others, but one with them. Not alone in the current, but carried together. The eternal flow of Lethe is not just a stream of forgetting, it is a river of renewal, a passage into quiet rebirth, a bridge of connection that cannot be broken. It carries all souls gently into the same vastness. It joins them. It unites them. It reminds them of what lies beyond sorrow, the timeless bond of silence and peace. Oblivion is not darkness. It is not chaos. It is silence, a silence so vast it cannot be measured, a silence where all burdens dissolve. The waters of Lethe lead to this silence. Every memory released, every sorrow unbound, every chain loosened from the soul, until nothing remains but pure stillness. Oblivion is not the end. It is a threshold, a doorway hidden in the flow, where the soul surrenders everything and finds freedom in emptiness. To some, it is feared, a place where identity fades, where names are forgotten, where voices are no longer heard. Yet, in truth, it is a gift, the gift of release, the gift of peace without weight. Lethe whispers gently, oblivion is not loss, it is rest. It is the deep rest that follows long journeys, the soft surrender after countless struggles, the still embrace where nothing is demanded and nothing is withheld. The ancients spoke of this place, not as destruction, but as renewal. They saw in oblivion a return to source, emerging into the infinite, where the self no longer suffers, but becomes part of the eternal calm. To step into oblivion through Lethe is not to vanish. It is to become one with the stream, to flow beyond memory, beyond time, beyond the narrow walls of the self. In oblivion, There is no past. There is no future. Only an endless present. A still horizon where the soul rests. Where silence sings more deeply than words. Where forgetting is freedom. Lethe and oblivion are not enemies of life. They are its balance. They remind us that to live fully, one must also release. That to carry everything is to grow heavy. And to let go is to be light again. Thus, the river flows, carrying each soul closer to silence, closer to rest, closer to the deep peace of oblivion, where nothing is feared and nothing is lost. Only the eternal calm remains. The river flows endlessly, its waters carrying silence and memory alike. But within its depths, there is a gift hidden in the gentle blues of eternity. The blues of Lethe are not sadness, they are serenity, the soft shades of peace, the calm tones of release, a color that belongs not to sorrow, but to freedom. To gaze into Lethe is to see the blues of infinity, endless horizons stretching across the soul, like twilight skies after the sun has set, soft, vast, and unbroken, promising rest without end. These blues cradle the spirit. They wash away the fire of grief. They cool the weight of memories. They soothe the heart that has carried too much, until all is gentle, until all is still. Lethe's eternal gift is not forgetting alone. It is the beauty of beginning again, the gift of breathing without burden, of walking without chains, of being light as wind. The blues remind us that silence has its own music. That emptiness has its own fullness. That forgetting does not destroy. It restores. Every soul that touches Lethe receives this gift of blues, the eternal calm of the river's embrace, the freedom of resting in stillness, the peace of becoming part of the endless flow. And as the waters close around the soul, the blues of Lethe whisper one last truth. You are not lost. You are free. You are not forgotten. You are at peace. In the mysteries of Orphic tradition, Lethe held a place both feared and sacred. For those who sought eternal freedom, the river was not only water, it was a choice. The Orphics taught of two rivers, One was Lethe, the River of Forgetfulness. The other, Mnemosyne, the River of Memory. To drink from Lethe meant release. But to drink from Mnemosyne meant remembrance. The choice between forgetting and knowing. Between silence and truth. In their sacred hymns, the Orphics whispered to the soul, "Do not drink from Lethe at once. For forgetting is easy, but wisdom lies in remembrance." Yet even they knew that Lethe could not be denied forever. For every soul, tired from the weight of life, longed for the gentle river's embrace, to dissolve into its silence, to let go of pain and burden. The Orphic tablets, buried with the dead, carried words of guidance, lines etched upon gold, telling the soul which path to take, which river to seek, which water to taste. Some were instructed, turn away from Lethe's quiet flow. Seek instead Mnemosyne's spring. For through remembrance comes true divinity. Yet others found peace only in Lethe's silence. Thus, Lethe stood as both warning and blessing, a river to be avoided, and a river to be embraced, a paradox flowing through eternity. In Orphic thought, the river of forgetfulness was not an end, but a passage, a threshold for the soul, a doorway to new beginnings, or to ultimate release. And so, Lethe's waters continued their eternal song, a song of choice, of forgetting and remembering. Upon the gentle banks of Lethe, the air was always still. No storm dared to rise there. No harsh winds disturbed the silence. Only the soft murmur of water remained. The shores were touched with mist. A veil of quietness draped across the land. Travelers who reached these edges felt their burdens fall away, as if the earth itself whispered release. Here, the river widened. Its waters no longer hurried. They flowed with patient calm, carrying the secrets of countless souls toward the depths of forgetfulness. Legends told of these shores, where weary spirits would rest, sitting by the river's edge, breathing in the silence before taking the step into its waters. The calmness was unlike any other place. It was not joy nor sorrow, but a quiet balance, a place where memory loosened its grip, where pain could no longer hold. Even the gods spoke softly here, for this was sacred ground, a threshold between worlds, where eternity touched the soul. Through the song of flowing silence, to walk upon Lethe's calm shores was to feel the world grow light, to sense the weight of existence dissolve, step by step, breath by breath. It was said that those who lingered here too long forgot even their own longing and drifted into the river, carried away by its eternal tide. Thus, the calm shores stood timeless, a resting place for weary travelers, a reminder of the silence that awaits all, a place where Lethe whispered, not of endings, but of peaceful release. At the very end of the river's journey, there awaited silence deeper than silence itself, a hush that swallowed every echo, a stillness untouched by time. This was the place called the Last Embrace. Here the waters of Lethe slowed to a quiet pool, reflecting not faces, not memories, but the absence of all things. The still surface shimmered like forgotten light. Souls who reached this end found themselves weightless. Every burden, every sorrow, already dissolved in the current. The last embrace was not cruel. It held no fear. It offered only release, like arms of the night wrapping gently around, guiding one into eternal rest. Here there was no past, no pain to recall, no joy to cling to, only a tender fading, like the final breath before sleep. Ancient poets wrote of this place, calling it the quietest sanctuary, where even the gods would pause, listening to the silence of Lethe's final gift, the embrace that unmade memory itself. To step into the waters here was to surrender completely, not with struggle, not with sorrow, but with peace. The river closed softly around each soul, drawing them into its endless calm, until even the thought of self was gone, carried into eternity's gentle tide, resting forever in Lethe's embrace. Thus ended the journey. From the first step at its silent flow, to the final rest at the last embrace. A story not of loss, but of eternal release.